Mission. Opinions expressed on WRFG do not necessarily represent the opinions of Radio Free Georgia Broadcasting, Inc., its staff, or volunteers. This program contains language and/or information which may be strong for some listeners. Portions of this program are pre-recorded. Discretion is advised.
You're listening to Community Radio WRFG Atlanta and on the World Wide Web at WRFG.org. 89.3 FM. We're proudly your listener-supported station for progressive information.
Yes, sir. I was not going to get a witness tonight. Through David's son, my soul to save, and treated Father's God.
Who raised the great early civilizations of Kemet and Kush and Monomotapa, the great medieval civilizations of Ghana and Mali and Songhai and Kanem Bornu. We pour to those who the great civilizations of the Igbo people and the Hausa people and the Kikongo people and the Mambara people, the great Mande civilizations, the great Kikongo, the great civilizations of Southern Africa, the Bantu people, the great civilizations of Southeast Africa, the Dinka, the Shilluk, the Noor. We pour to those millions who raised the foundations from which the world would learn what it meant to be human in the world. Ashe. We pour to their children who, upon the arrival on the shores of people they had never seen before, found themselves captured and marched overland, found themselves perishing by the millions before they were held on the holding cells and the open air pens on the coast of West, Central, Southern, and East Africa. We pour to the ancestors who did not know as they were stripped of all clothing and sent denuded into boats, packed like animals, and strewn their bones across the floor of the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. We pour to them who in the last moment on Africa grabbed the sand and grabbed the dirt and put it in their mouths and understood that the only thing they might have to preserve their place in that continent was their memory of that place and their ability to pass it on to their children. We pour to them. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour to those Africans and their children who finding themselves cast adrift in Santiago, Cuba, who found themselves cast adrift in Porto, Spain, Trinidad, and Port-au-Prince, Haiti, who found themselves cast adrift in New Orleans and Charleston and Mobile, who found themselves cast adrift in Salvador, Bahia, who found themselves cast adrift in Barbados, and the archipelago that formed the wayward and the windward coast. We found them in these places learning Portuguese and Spanish and French, whose often first words was, "Oh my God, oh Madre de Dios," who found themselves praying to survive and pass on to their children the memories. We pour to those ancestors who are represented in the thousands buried in all the square miles of where we stand, and who sit here buried before us in 400 caskets forged of wood from West Africa with Adinkra symbols. Each one of them, each woman, man, and child, symbolic of millions. The children of those who could not be killed, we pour Ashe. We pour to their children who somehow survived the hells of enslavement and fought for emancipation in the Caribbean, the French, British, Dutch Caribbean, who fought for emancipation in South America, who fought for emancipation in Central America, who fought the struggles we refer to as the Civil War in the United States, who came out of that, marched out of enslavement through Reconstruction, and found themselves making great migrations, eventually ending up in places like New York. Their children's children, who making a way for themselves, became our great-great-grandparents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our parents. Those who, when the first bones were discovered in this space, held their hands and said, "Stop, no more." We are here to speak for those who can no longer speak with their mouths. We pour for those ancestors, some of whom came to Howard University in 2004 and followed these caskets all the way back to New York. We pray to the great ancestors, the ones whose names we know and the ones whose names we don't. And at this moment, as we pour this libation, I would ask anyone who feels comfortable to say the name of someone in your bloodline who is no longer physically here, but who you know made it possible for you to be here. Go ahead, let's hear the names. Haywood Carr, Corey Griffin, Thomas Jr., Evelyn Glover. We pour to the names that we hold collective. Ganga Zumba in Brazil, Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe in Haiti. We pour to the great Avengers, Nanny of the Maroons of Jamaica. We pour to the great ancestors, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass. Say the names that you study. Who are the names of the ancestors that you have come to hold in your heart and your mind as you hope that you can do what they did for us, for your children and children's children? Let's say some of those famous names. Malcolm X, Lou Hamer, John Henry Clark, John G. Jackson, Jacob Carruthers. And finally, two final libations. We pour to those who make it possible for us to do what we do. We pour to these rangers who stand guardian over this sacred space. We pour to these Africans and these folks who have come from Howard University, the staff, the faculty, the administrators who brought us here today to bear witness. This is not a libation, but an affirmation, because their hearts still beat, their tongues still speak, their minds still think, and their minds still wish the best for us. We pour for all of those people who surrounded us on this journey today and made it possible for us to be here. We pour this affirmation of thanks, Ashe. Ashe. And finally, we pour to your children's children who will one day stand on this space and speak your name. Ashe.
My last time, when I go in my room, I come out no more. Be there, Lord. Lord, be there. I don't know where that's going to overtake me, Lord. Now, be there. No. I see Mr. Nelson thing. I want y'all to do this for a little while.
You tuned into the Ancestral Rock on your station for progressive information and healthy quality music. For those of you joining us in different parts of the diaspora, I want to let you know the final boarding call has been issued. We're going to the land of Guyana today. So let's say the favored land of El Dorado. We're going to take a dip and dwell amongst the Congo people. We have a special guest waiting in the wings, So we're not going to take too much time for the introduction. Thank you for joining us on WRFG.org, 89.3 on the FM dial in Atlanta and surrounding areas. We're going to take a trip to Guyana for many reasons. It's not just because that's the land of my birth. Of course, we have no apology for being proud of the land of our birth. But you know, as our ancestor, Dr. John Henry Clark say, if it's not for the cause of African liberation, we just dash it in the trash bin of history. So there's something good in the water for everyone, no matter where you come from. The same man reminded us that all history is a current event. So we use our story as a compass. We use our story as a tool to help us navigate through these vibes that we've been living through. The Guyana, the cabin doors have been closed. Yeah, too late to change your mind, baby.
Somebody see me. Somebody see me and tell you. Somebody see me. Somebody see me and tell you. Somebody see me.
I know some of y'all living in the cold northeastern region. You don't mind taking a trip to the tropics this afternoon. Bless up the Atlanta crew, East Point, College Park, Decatur, where it's greater Stone Mountain. Sipping in the Ital Fountain, whether you're in the south side or the north side, the west side, the west end, the African village.
Somebody see me and tell you. Some culture see me and tell you. Somebody see me. Only sea breeze will not blow. Somebody see me. Only the sea down up and blow. Somebody see me and tell you. Somebody see me, see me. I carry a see and tell you. Somebody see me. A coach see me and tell you. Somebody see me, see me. A Babylon see me and tell you. Somebody see me. It's a long grass scatter. Somebody see me, see me. It's a long grass scatter. Somebody see me. Somebody see me and tell you. Somebody see me, see me. Somebody see me and tell you. Somebody see me. It's a sea breeze been a blow. Somebody see me, see me. Only sea time up and low. Somebody see me. It's a long grass scatter. Somebody see me, see me. It's a long grass scatter. Somebody see me. Somebody see me, see me.
Somebody see me. Somebody see me. The voice of the mighty Yoruba Singers.
Oh, don't take, 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 oh, don't take.
We have our
Ding the nice, 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 ding the nice,
hard way.
ding the nice, ding the nice, ding the nice, ding the nice.
Family.
Parents, please take my advice. Ding the nice. Tell your children don't take candy from a stranger. He might be Chester, the child molester. Don't take candy from a stranger. He might be a dangerous fella. Ting the night.
Great pleasure to welcome the airways of WRF, someone who is a living legend, living this music. You know, people throw around those words like legend and legendary and icon and all these things. It's beautiful when your works can speak for themselves. So there's no doubt and there's no question in the people's mind whether or not you're just kind of embellishing things. So this person, this elder we have with us this afternoon is absolutely a living legend. And he was recently, I would say, I won't even say the word rewarded. He was recently acknowledged for his legendary activity, his cultural work, not just for the people of Guyana, but really for the whole world, with an honorary degree from the University of Guyana. But that's not why we have him on the phone with us today. You know, we respect academic institutions and everything. They all have their place. However, what we love more than anything else is the voice of the people. There's a Kiswahili proverb that says the voice of the people is the voice of God. Sauti ya watu ni sauti ya Mungu. And the voice of the people have already proclaimed our elder, Ezzie Rockcliffe, as a living legend through his works. His works go before him. So without any further ado, we want to welcome him to the airways of WRFG Atlanta. Welcome to our YouTube channel for those of y'all linking up with us on Facebook through Camps TV, as well as other methods. I think your mic is muted, Papa Ezzie, so let me ask you to...
Hey,
yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. You can hear me?
I could hear you clear. I could hear you clear.
Yes. I'm very grateful for having this interview so that I can inspire other people to continue the work that I'm doing,
yes,
or
sir,
to help to mobilize, organize, and educate
yes, sir,
African people everywhere.
Yes.
Like I have a song, one of my first songs that I wrote, I said, African people everywhere. African people everywhere. African people, do not despair. African people, wherever you go, African people, we love you so. That's just part of the first verse, yeah.
That's the great Ezzie Rockcliffe. As my father corrected me several times when I was so excited to tell my father about a couple of years ago when I finally met you in person, because just even as a means of introduction and setting the foundation for this time we have together. One of my intentions, as I shared with you on the phone, is to use this discourse to introduce a whole generation of people to your work and to your legacy and to your greatness, even through myself. Because as a young man, of course, the Yoruba Singers, you see the name on the placards or the signs all over the posters all over the place as youth man. But I spent most of my time in this foreign land that I'm speaking to you from now. So if I didn't have some inside information, I might be like so many people of my generation, and especially younger generations who do not know who the Yoruba Singers are. If I'm not mistaken, the Yoruba Singers just celebrated 52-year anniversary. 53, pardon me. And see that, so that you've been in here longer, you've been on this earth longer than I've been here. So I'm very happy to have this opportunity to get some of my story, some of our story as an Afro-Guyanese, as a Caribbean citizen, as someone who is very interested in the cultural preservation and the forward movement of African people. So I want to thank you again for taking the time to be with us, giving us the honor of finally getting this interview done. We've been talking about it for a while. And I wonder, where would you start if you had to introduce yourself this afternoon?
Well, my name is Ezzie Rockcliffe, and I was born in a place called Perth Village, Maikoni. I learned about 15 years ago that the people from Perth Village didn't land in Guyana as slaves. They came to a place called Bahia after slavery. And my great-grandfather, Proston Halley, used to do the same work that I'm doing, organizing concerts all across the West Coast, Babies, and East Coast, Demerara, and so on, taking African talent all around to entertain people, right? Proston Alexander Halley, that was his name. And his wife, which is Sarah Halley, who lived to 105, she and Auntie Darlene, which was Washington, because she was here in Washington before, her first cousin, they were the nurses, although they weren't certified, but they were very qualified as nurses, looking after all people, whether you're Indian, you're Portuguese, you're white. They would travel across the West Coast, Babies, all through Maikoni, and look after people when they're sick and care for the sickness and even bathe dead and all of that. So we were very disappointed when the Indians turned on us in 1963, right? With that stupid riot they had and all of that. So it was a terribly burning heartbreak for the people in Maikoni, because we lived so well with them, and they let politics intervene and disrupt and destroy the relationship of Africans and East Indians.
Yes, sir. There's so much you said right there in that short introduction that is so compelling. So many different ways we can go. First thing that caught my attention was that you said you learned 15 years ago that the founders of that village, I don't know if that's the word you use, but early inhabitants of that village did not come on slave ships. And this is a discourse that's happening all over the African diaspora right now. Sometimes it goes to an extreme where some people say there was no such thing as the Ma'afa, and we know that's to be ridiculous. But deeper than that, it goes to the fact that African people were the first people everywhere, as the great anthropologist, historian who comes from our place, our country, Ivan van Sertima, said they came before Columbus.
Yeah.
So were you shocked when you heard this information?
Well, I was, because the man didn't give him, he abused him. He said, look, you come from Maikoni, you don't even know your own history. Y'all come through a place called Bahia, after slavery. Y'all come same time with the East Indians. And they settle here. And my grandfather never worked with nobody. My great-grandfather. He used to export black pepper to the U.S. in some small barrel. Never worked with a soul.
And you remember, you have vivid memories of your grandfather?
My great-grandfather, yes. Vivid small, because he made 83 runs. But I was about 4 or 5 when he died.
So you have any memories of him? You remember him as a youth?
No. I just could remember talking with him a couple of times as a youth. Yes. But his wife, my great-grandmother, Sarah Halley, I know of her a lot.
Yes. Well, I have to tell you, I did some, I won't say cheating, I did some research from an inside source because I didn't go to Google preparing for this interview. Someone who you know before I know myself, which is my father, A.U.C. Kwana, he sends his love and regards. He was very happy to know that we had connected finally. But he was mentioning, he told me to tell you that he was corrected about the pronunciation of your name because he was with somebody, I think from Igbo land, getting some medical treatment here in Atlanta. And he was just running off some of the people he knew and some of the connections, you know, and he said about Ezzie, and he said, well, the correct pronunciation is Ezzie, Ezzie Rockcliffe. But along the way, you know, I would like to dig deeper into the place where you come from, because we know that when we understand the roots of a person or a song or an idea, we understand more about that idea. We understand more about that person. So take us to Maikoni, the place that you came of age, the place that you first saw the light of day. And help us to kind of envision what that society was like in the time when you were young.
I will start out by saying, when I listen, now I'm learning the social media, and I listen to some African short movies and things. How the people talk, right? In the village, I hear those talk all the time. You go over like, oh, and you know that kind of. And I never knew. When I come to town, I didn't hear the talk. Because I came to town when I was 5.5. But every August, we used to go and spend the whole August in Maikoni. So I would always stay connected with the Maikoni roots, you know?
Yes.
And the people were always in connection with the African roots. Because we used to get first of August festival. First of August, come again. Now we go roll ginger, roll ginger, roll ginger. First of August, come again. Now we go roll ginger. And all the women would come and dance at we had a society hall. They would come and for 3 days straight, they would cook and eat and dance just to celebrate 1st of August, even before the government tried to make it a public holiday and all of that.
Yes.
We're celebrating that every year, all the time. They used to call it soiree.
Yes. So when you mention the fact that when you start linking up on the social media and getting in touch with African expression through the mass media and everything, you said to yourself that you're hearing these things all the time.
All the time.
It reminds me of a story that my father told me about a wake. I don't know if you were at this wake, but the backstory is there was an African revolutionary from the States named Ralph Featherstone, and another one named Che Payne. They were assassinated with a bomb, and before they were assassinated, I guess it was expressed that part of his last wishes, Che Payne, both of them, Featherstone and Che Payne, they wanted to be buried in an African country. It is said that Featherstone ended up being buried in, I want to say, Nigeria. But Askria received the body of Che Payne and took his remains up the river to Fort, I can't never pronounce it right. Is it Magdalene?
Magdalenburg.
Magdalenburg, right? The seat of the 1763 rebellion,
Right.
which, for those of us listening who don't know, happened to be the longest lasting rebellion of enslaved Africans in history. The only one which was longer, which is not classified as rebellion because it became a revolution, was Haiti. 11 months they held, and I was privileged to go there and take some
On
of my
the
family.
coffee.
Yes, sir, on the coffee. But the
God
point
give us-
is that they came, and my father tell me about this wake that happened in West Coast Berbice before the funeral, before they take you up the river, up the creek. And all night, the people were chanting in an African language, speaking and chanting in an African language. He couldn't remember which village it was. Were you at that celebration? Were you at that
No,
wake?
I wasn't there. I wasn't there. But I could remember going up that river. It's a mystic place. They had a national service center there, and Burnham flew me in with helicopter because I was being given the Medal of Service in 1980 because the band was about 8 years old and
Yes.
9 years old, and Burnham thought, well, I'm doing good work culturally, and he flew me in at that celebration, national service celebration, and the whole night I was being visited by African spirit, whole night. So I told Burnham, I said, I'm not going back with the helicopter. I got to touch the river, Kanji River.
Yeah.
I got to touch the, and then we wrote a song called Watawasha River, Kanji River, Mama. We never record the song. We just finish recording it, yes. What? Kanji River, Mama, Kanji River, Watawasha River, Kanji River. Coffee struck the first blow at Kanji River, and all them pick me should know, but Kanji River, Kanji, that.
Yeah. You could have sing a little bit more. I wouldn't be vexed at all.
Okay.
You have a powerful voice.
Yeah.
So speaking of your voice, when did you first discover your voice? When did you first discover that you had not only a nice singing voice and everything, but you had a voice that is compelling, that is influential, that could carry a message in the world?
Well, I think I discovered that thing through your father, right? Because when I joined Askria, we start to, they had cultural groups like UC Mandilio and Black Showcase and a couple other groups we had. And we started to give concerts around the place. So when you be going to Union, we going Denamstel, we going Bucketville, we go to Linden, and Askria used to organize these things.
Yeah.
So we really feeling left out. So we had a compound in Kitty. So we decided we got to take part. And the man bring a guitar, and I started to sing and so on, and that's how it came about. So
that's how the Yoruba Singers started.
My voice was through your dad.
Oh, wow. So this is how the Yoruba Singers, what you just mentioned, is actually how the Yoruba Singers came about.
That's right. Because when the group formed, we get very popular within the organization, Askria.
Yes.
And after a year performing for the organization, a man named Brother Green, he was a Jordanite, he said you should name yourself Yoruba, because the early Yoruba people used to travel a lot and see y'all traveling all around the country. Yeah. So you should name Yoruba Singers. And this is how we got it.
You just mentioned Jordanites, and the Jordanites is a recurring theme when I'm digging into Afro-Guyanese history.
Yeah.
My father and other people would tell me about Elder Jordan and how they would go around preaching the gospel, so to speak. Now, I wouldn't call it the gospel, but they were really liberation people. They were, in a sense, Pan-Africanists. What was your first memory of the Jordanites?
Well, I used to see these people in all white clothes, and they're there at the corner, and they would be talking real Bible stories, not like how you're going to church, but they would tell you the root, and they always believe that what they're doing came as the foundation of African spiritualism through the Jordanite. Right? And that was the first glimpse of me having the Christianity that we're talking about really rooted in Africa.
You don't remember any of them stories that they tell? Anything that caught your attention?
No, I can't remember the story because they're so numerous.
Yes. Well, as I prepared for this program and as I sent out the notice, that's what I invited people to, story time. So if you don't mind, we're going to use you, Papa, I would say Doctor, properly, Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe, as a storyteller that is going to help us to come back home, because we understand that storytelling is really a tool of liberation. I want to ask you about that first song I played, Long Grass Can't Talk. Many people viewing us from outside of Guyana who probably don't understand the context of that song there. A beautiful song, a beautiful melody and everything, but tell us what's going on behind that song.
Well, the first time I heard that song is a girl named from Lucy Williams from Denhamston, right? And that's an old village story about two young people going on the seawall on a date. They were 15 and 16. That's around 1838 or 1938, I can't remember. 1938. And you didn't have cell phones, nor telephones, nor even walkie-talkie. You didn't have them thing at the time. And when they go over the seawall, they had the first kiss.
Mm-hmm.
It was 7 o'clock in the evening. And by the time 7:30, quarter, the whole village don't know that they kissed on the seawall. And when they look around, they don't see nobody.
Only long grass.
Only long grass. So they said, long grass can't talk. Somebody had to see them. And they said, somebody see me and tell you. Somebody see me. A culture see me and tell you. Somebody see me.
We're talking with Dr. Baba Ezzie Rockcliffe, founder of the Yoruba Singers, 53 years strong. And as you can tell, for those of you out
years non-stop. We never take a break. 53 years continuous. We never break up and come again and all of that.
So how many of the original members are still with us in the flesh?
Only me.
Everybody else gone before us.
A lot of them gone to the great beyond. We have Samson Robinson still alive. Ingrid Barton still alive. She's here. Although she didn't start off playing the music, she was in the band.
Yes.
One singing and she would train the young people to dance and so on, the young girls and so on, through Askria. Right?
Yeah.
Because remember the group, the name Kitty Young Askrians. So we only used to sing, but we used to do interpretive dancing and all. The whole group of you is about 30 people at the time.
So call some of the other names of the founding members for us, please.
William Bascom, we used to call it Syrup, or Chach. Then they had Gregory O'Mallow, they had Wilfred Lashley, Udari Small, Eddie Small, Rudy Torrington, Dansley King from Hansgrove, Jojo Felix, he's the one who composed Ojinga's Own, the first song you played.
Yes.
Jojo Felix Terrence. Abiola, Balder Caesar, her name was Jade Abiola. We had Malika, her sister. To date, my brother was checking up. The band has become an institution because almost 96 people passed through this group.
Wow. And I'm sure all of them have a beautiful story to tell.
Everybody but a lot of them die out,
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
30 people died.
30.
But that passed through the group, yes.
I saw some of the early, even as we're looking now, I mean, people can see this on YouTube. I saw some of the early pictures of the group. And to put this in context, the 60s and the 70s were the occasion for a serious cultural revolution going on.
That's right.
So you talked about, I'm just trying to piece two and two together. You talked about the African roots of your village. What are some of the things that when I say the things, let me be more clear. What are some of the activities, other than 1st of August, the recurring activities that would point to these African roots, other than the people, black skin and everything?
Every Saturday night, I can remember they used to gather on the road. My father had a shop, and they used to get opposite the shop. They had about 20 we used to call it flambeau. They would come out, and everybody would gather, and they would buy food, all kinds of local food, better G, black pudding, sauce, fish cake. Everybody is selling and thing, and they could come out like 7 o'clock, and they could finish like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, I remember that vividly. Right in Port Myconi.
Yes.
Next thing, they used to do a lot of farming. In my village, we used to eat rice once a week. Them old people used to eat rice once a week.
Only once?
Once a week. Every day's provision.
Oh.
On soup and metaji or dry food, saltfish and cassava plantain. But every day, for 6 days, only 1 day a week, they can eat some cook-up rice or shine rice.
Right. Right. So simple things like what I remember from coming up in Buxton as a little boy, and I left Buxton in terms of, I say permanently, we migrated after Standard 4. But still at that age, I could remember a lot of things that I did in my formative years. But one thing that always sweet to me is Kwekwe.
Yes. Yeah.
Or wake. A wake, of course, wake is the night before a funeral, but Kwekwe. Explain to the people what is Kwekwe for those who don't know.
Kwekwe is the night before the wedding, where the girl is a kind of ceremony where the girl and the boy family, they do some rituals like the girls would hide and they can, I wonder where the men are gone. So I chum go find them, watch songs like that. I wonder where my girlfriend gone, or wherever your name is. Yeah. And they can say, search them, and they can search in all the places, and then they find them, and then they put you up on a high stool, and they go walk around. It's a lovely ceremony. It's still going on up to now. That was one of the highlights of wedding ceremony.
Naturally. And I'm asking you this because, okay, there's the African side of you, but what other kind of music were y'all exposed to before you became the Yoruba Singers? What other kind of music as young people?
When I was small, they had a group called Little Jones, right? They were like a classic horn band. But later on, when the Yoruba Singers came into being, when Yoruba Singers came into being, they used to play like spiritual music.
Yes.
And when we played our music to a lot of people get we call Hunter Banter, right? Where they've gone into the spirit realm and they're heading for the trench, and you got especially women, and you got to hold them back and so on.
They're heading for the trench. The trench is a waterway.
That's water trench, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Most of the time when the drums take the women, they're heading for the trench. I don't know what's the reason they're heading for the trench, but you got to hold them strong till they catch themselves, and you might squeeze the line and put comb in the head or nail in the head and so on,
Yeah.
Put a shine object in the head and then they can drunk yourself. Or sop the head with liquor thing.
But that is interesting that they're heading for the trench because some of my spiritual studies have talked about what they call in Guyana Watamuma.
Yes.
In other places in West Africa and even here in the diaspora, they say Mami Wata.
Okay. Like over here in Watamuma.
Yeah, Watamuma, yes.
And Moongeza.
Aye.
And Moongeza, in the village where I come from, people experience Moongeza more than one time.
So what is Moongeza for those who don't know?
A tall man looking up. He didn't belong to the village or not, but just looking at the moon, like 8 feet tall, and standing looking at the moon. Our uncle of mine coming in, and he see the Moongeza, and when his wife said, "Oh, Mr. carry me home now," he didn't answer. Then he come with a harsh voice. Me not gonna sign. Me not gonna sign. And he would look at this Moongeza. He's looking at the moon all the time. And then after a certain time, he just disappeared. But they had Moongeza and Watamuma for truth, for real.
You ever see this with your own eyes?
No, I never saw Watamuma. and another Massacre Man. You know we got a song called Massacre Man. Well, Sammy Bash been on here last week, and he was telling me he experienced Massacre Man in the Demerara River by suicide.
Massacroma.
Yes, Massacre Man. A man coming out of the river with one to the hip on his skin. Tall, strapping. And then have olives. He didn't trouble them or nothing, but they get scared and thing, and then he go back down.
And just for clarity, these people that see these things, these are not people who smoking dope or
No.
using drugs and all them kind of thing.
No.
They see it with a natural eye.
Yes, and that's why we wrote the song many years ago, because other people saw Massacre Man before.
Yeah.
Farmers and things would complain and said this Massacre Man, they used to be in a particular season between March and June in the Demerara River. They used to show themselves to people.
And the physical description was a long, you say strapping, so big,
yes,
heavy, strong person,
right,
with hair coming out all over the place.
Yes.
So something that would look probably like a gorilla or something.
Right.
Coming out of the river.
Coming out of the river and then submerging again.
Wow.
And sometimes they throw themselves 2-3 times in one night.
Wow. We're talking to Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe, founder of the Yoruba Singers. It's 46 minutes after the hour of 2 here in Atlanta. Greetings to those of you who are joining us all over the world. We see people linking in from Guyana, of course, Barbados, people on our website, on the WRFG website, in Africa and England. So this is a global community. We're having a global conversation with someone who is a cultural icon. And as we said, we don't just throw those words around so loosely, you know. Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe of the Yoruba Singers. And as we're talking and I'm seeing the time pass, and I know that this is something, I hope you got a book coming out, because we only have 2 hours on this program and we probably barely scratched the surface. So I'm dancing in between the present time and what we would say the olden days, the days of your childhood. So when did you move from Maikoni, which is in the countryside, relatively speaking? When did you move into?
I was born in 1950, the 9th of December. Monday can be my birthday. But I have a concert on Sunday at called For the Love of a Common People.
Yes, and we're going to talk more about that in a little while for sure, to get all the details.
Yes. So in 1956, July, just August, early August, we moved to town at a place called Kitty. 85 Railway Line Kitty. That was our first stop. Then we went across to 64 Dowden Street after 1 month, because the mother booked the place, but when she come, they said she got too much of picnic. So she had to go to her cousin and stay for almost a month plus. And the people were so loving at that time.
Yeah.
Me cousin was 7 of them in a 1-bedroom apartment on the train line. And my mother come with 6. It's 13. And she and her husband is 15. 15 and we lived there for about 3-4 months.
Wow.
And that trend, when my mother settled in and living in Kitty, I could remember sometimes 17, 18 people. They come down from Maikoni, they come into Sister Tora. There's a country Sister Tora. Sometimes Cousin Hannah come with 4, Cousin Elaine come with 3, Cousin Elise come with another 5, and they never complain. And they can stay for about 2 months. And that was the kind of African spiritual love we had at that time.
Yes.
Now everybody gets sophisticated and skinning up their nose. And they want you use the computer, they want you use the fan, but we're not fan and computer. We are barely on a small radio.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. So we have lost the African cultural rooted love, you know?
Yes.
And I'm hoping to get back to that sometime.
If you could place a time, I know it didn't happen in just one day. If you could place when this road starts shifting from that functional love, like as we say, love is an action verb, to where it is now. If you could,
I think it started like in the 70s. We started shifting like in the 70s. Although some of our leaders tried to hold on and try to pilot and guide, like UC Quayano, Pops Burnham, some other leaders, Jake Croker from over the river, from Baggersville. He is a cultural icon in my mind, right? Like UC and a couple others who tried to hold on and try to teach the love for the common people or for us to continue to cement the kind of cultural heritage that we ought to know and ought to keep us together.
Yeah. So if you could point to some factors, what would you say would be some of factors that we could look at to examine, to say, well, these are things that cause, that help to influence this shift in our collective consciousness?
The emphasis that were placed at the time on formal education is a good thing, right? To have O levels and advanced levels and degrees and so on. It's a good thing, but at the same time, while we were trying to be in the echelon of that particular society of I am this, I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, and all of that, the other people were concentrating on doing business. And we get left behind because we neglect what we first started to do. That's how we buy out villages after slavery. Because we didn't want to be police and soldier and all of that. We weren't allowed to be that at that time. Right? And that caused the shift because we've never been able to balance our production sector in terms of planting food. And one of them came with feed, clothes, and house itself because he feel the shift. And that's why he placed a lot of emphasis on feed, clothes, and house itself, right? Because he knew it was getting away from us.
Yes.
He felt it.
Yes.
But right now, 3% of this country's population are controlling 97% wealth. So we have real bad. Even some of our ancestral lands are being taken away for all kinds of so-called lawful or lawless reasons.
So when you said that, you said something very profound there, because one of the things that has been a part of the analysis for the same situation facing African people in this country, in the United States, is a similar thing. And as you said, it's not about being against education, because African people were people who educated the world from ancient time. But it's like a form of education that
is miseducation.
Is miseducation.
Form of education is miseducation.
Right. I remember seeing a movie. I'm sure you might have seen this movie, a classic movie from the 70s called Countryman.
No, never seen it.
Oh, you got to see this movie now. It's up on YouTube. But in Countryman now, not to spoil the plot for you, some foreigners crash, their plane crashed in Jamaica. And this gave them the occasion to be saved. They'd get their life saved by a Rasta man. And this is during a time where politics read in Jamaica. So the propaganda on the news was that it's a CIA plane that crashed. So that soldier, everybody looking for them. So with this drama in the backdrop, this Rasta man have them up in the hills. And he said to them one day, it's a man and a woman, like a man and his fiancée. He said, if I say to you, brother, you go to the highest school in Babylon and learn all there is to know about how to build a rocket ship and this, that, and the third. And I say to you, sister, you go in the hills amongst the plants and the animals and learn all there is to know from nature. You, brother, from your big education in Babylon, you're going to build a rocket ship that will take you to the moon. Don't you think, sister, that you, because of your education in the earth, you could learn how to call up lightning and blow the rocket ship out of the sky.
Jimmy Cliff was the man who played that role? I can't remember.
No, Jimmy Cliff. No, this is another man.
Okay.
I kind of a man. You would call like a Douglas man.
Okay.
They call it country man.
Okay.
But Jimmy Cliff was The Harder They Come. But
The Harder They Come.
Yeah, classic film. But I think it really speaks to what you're talking about.
Mm.
And you get to find out that this is something that's happening all over the world. 55 minutes after the hour, 5 minutes to the hour of 3. We're here until 4 o'clock hour. Thank you all for joining us on the Ancestral Rock. We're going to take a short break. We're joined by, again, the legendary Can't Stop Say So, Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe of the Yoruba Singers. We're going to play another one of your songs. I can't pre-announce it, but we'll talk about it when we come back. But you alluded to the phenomenon that this song kind of speaks to. So let's hear now from the Yoruba Singers.
It's a big long hairy man. This big long monster man. Not shining Catholic hair. Country and me. And if you swallow it, then she go hot belly. Hey, you massa purama. Hey, you massa purama. Hear him. Hey, you massa purama. Look, you massa purama. Because hey, you massa purama. Oh, bring me God, hey, you massa purama. Look, you massa purama. Hey, you massa purama. Long the Rarema. Hey, you massa purama. Long the Rarema. Hey, you massa purama. Please rise and go back. Massa purama. Just the line and go back. Massa purama. Hey, you 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 massa .3 on the FM dial, WRFG.org. WRFG.org, the station for progressive information and enhanced quality music. I can't leave this one out. woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Yes, when I've been come, when I've been home. Woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. What that's so big, that's so big, oh. Woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Oh, woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Oh, woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Woman, I'm dead, yeah, woman. Woman, I alone I alone can satisfy you. Have to walk for me day and night. Long and long.
Don't make joke. WRFG Atlanta 89.3 on the FM dial. WRFG.org.
In and out.
Greetings to those of y'all joining us on Facebook, on YouTube. You're always invited to subscribe to the YouTube channel, On the Farm. Our SoundCloud, which is On the Farm Radio, ONDAFARM Radio. Speaking with Papa Ezzie Rockcliffe of the Yoruba Singers. Of course, as he mentioned earlier, they have a program coming up that we want to hear all about. And his Birth Strong is coming up too. However, we're going down memory lane right now as a means of researching our own story, Sankofa. Somebody in the comments said they remember wonderful party days with the Yoruba Singers, Papa Ezzie. And I know many people from my village in Buxton who would say the same thing. And this, as we leading up into this discussion, as we continue, you were talking about some of the other musical influences. And, nowadays, you can easily be found singing some oldies as well, golden oldies, as well as some of those African chants that probably brought the group to a great popularity. Because, I hear that once the group sprung up, it was very popular all over the place. How many nights in the week you all would be out working?
Well, there are times we work like Wednesday. Well, Wednesday was a regular work night. Wednesday picnic, they used to call it. People used to look forward to that. And then we can play Thursday at a concert at Friends. And then Friday we gonna play somewhere else. I remember one Sunday we played 3 times on more than one occasion. Excursion from like 10 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Then from 7 to midnight, we play at Wiggingham, and from midnight we got a half-night dance from midnight till morning, 3 times on Sunday, and they used to happen a lot.
Pulse like steel. How many original members of the group when the group first formed? How many people were?
13. We started out with 13.
13.
Yes.
And this was just a strictly percussions and vocals without any other instruments.
Yeah, we had box guitars.
Box guitar.
Flute and mouth organ.
Right. So when I was asking about some of your musical history as youth man and everything, because I'm wondering how revolutionary was it for you all to say we're not playing, we're not playing Sam Cooke, or we're not playing this and that. We're playing African music. We're just drum, voices, and box guitar. Was that something that was unheard of or seen as revolutionary?
Yes, it was unheard of. Even the folk songs in dancehall was unheard of till we came along. Now, them one man band playing a lot of folk songs in dancehall.
Yes.
But we started that, right? But then we realized to stay in the business, you got to play everything that is popular, right? You got to play everything, and we start playing oldies. We start playing reggae. We start playing calypso and soca. And then at one time we branched out to jazz. Right? As the musical knowledge increased, men get more proficient on the instruments and so on.
Yeah.
We tune into all kinds of music. And that's one of the reasons why we last so long. Yeah. Because if you get at one time they used to call me the local Third World Band. Between 74 to 78, 79. Because Third World was very popular in Guyana. And we used to play the Third World music and Steel Pulse almost exact how they played it. By
Wow.
then we add keyboard to the band, right, and electric guitars and so on. But we still had with drums, and then later on, in 1981 we introduced the drum set.
Yes. Yes.
But
So
we had a lot of percussion instruments and so on.
do you have plans of returning to a point of focus on the folk songs?
Well,
Or-
we never left it. We never left folk songs. Like when we were on tour and like when we did Madison Square Garden and all, although we used to play all that kind of music, we only played Yoruba music
yeah.
at Madison Square Garden,
Yeah.
right? Compositions of Yoruba and so on. Like Bleeding with Heat. I don't know if you have that. That was one of the most popular song. Rabbi Washington used to play that song every day on radio. Bleeding with Heat. That was recorded, I think it was 1974 in Barbados.
Yeah. So you mentioned politics a couple of times, and when you mentioned Rabbi Washington, that takes me back to a time that was very tricky, to say the least. A time that Guyanese people now are still grappling with, you know. I know there were some political clashes that came that continued, not just the racial clashes of the 60s and everything, but even as the group formed and everything.
Yeah, we were expelled from the People's National Congress in 1972.
Why?
For harassment of ministers and racism. Those were the charges. Of course, Burnham was not in the country at the time. So it took me 42 years to know who was the architect of our expulsion. It was a man named Kami Ramsaru, who was the chairman of the party at the time.
For harassment?
Well, when the ministers come to the group in Kitty,
the
YSM, Kitty Central YSM, we used to ask them some tough questions. And some of them used to be ruffled by the questions we asked as young people. Because remember, I was 20 years old when I formed the band.
Yeah.
So they had younger than me and they had older than me in the band. So we used to ask them a lot of tough questions, the ministers.
Yeah.
When they come to give the group talk or orientation or whatever you might call it. So they must complain among themselves to the rest of the ministers. And the chairman of the group at the time, Burnham, was on some African safari and so on. And he instructed Jeffrey Thomas and the YSM at the time to expel us. 8 of us were expelled. 7 boys and 1 girl, Ingrid Martin.
When you mentioned tough questions, one of the
ask them, our main thing is we thought that the black people in the country should get a better slice of the economic cake because that wasn't happening, and that caused a problem. Of course, we were very vociferous about it, and I don't know the word got to Kamika. He was the chairman of the party and so on, and they put it to vote and they win the executive. They won by 3 votes. I think the executive was 12. Was 2 votes they win by.
So yeah. I remember hearing a story. Maybe you could clarify, because I know rumors are spread easy. That there was a conversation between you and Mr. Burnham where you said to him, you know, I can't quote verbatim, but we are not blind and thoughtless followers of a Usikwayana. And that Burnham's retort to you was that, well, you're going to need to be blind and thoughtless followers of me. Is this accurate?
No, that's not true. We never had such conversation. Right? Burnham never, ever challenged our relationship with Ashkri. Never did. Some of his people around him did that. Like I said, Kami Ramsaru.
Yeah.
Right? He was the chairman of the party. And it took me 43 years to know what was Burnham's reaction when he came back from the tour. He said, I put a man to look over things. You know the situation. I don't want to say it on national broadcast. But he called the man,
Mm.
but he said, and you can make he instruct you to expel these people when all they were asking for a better slice of the cake for black people. How that is racism? A better slice of the cake, the national cake for black people. That was our main concern because our opinion was that black people didn't get in a proper slice of the cake, the economic cake at the time.
Mm.
Of course, probably we went to how we used to talk to the ministers when they come. They didn't approve of, you always got to submit. But we telling it like black, like the ordinary man I say, I can show you black buddy. This is what we want. This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
We, blood, sweat, and tears, build this land for nothing. No, we didn't pay. So now we should get something. And they were annoyed.
Outside of that scenario, would you say that the Yoruba Singers has remained kind of politically neutral? I'm asking this question because for people who listening who are not from Guyana or from the Caribbean, I mean, even now in the United States, Democrats and Republicans, people seem to be very tribalistic about their political party. If you're not a member of this party, then me and you got problems from the jump.
Well,
How has the group managed, or has the group managed to navigate those waters without getting swept up in one direction or another?
well, the thing is, we always believe that our foundation, our core foundation, is about the development of African people. I have no quarrel with any other race, but I gotta fix my house first.
Naturally.
I ain't got no quarrel with. I wouldn't trouble an Indian brother or a Portuguese brother or a European brother or an Amerindian brother. But I gotta first look after my house.
Yeah.
If my house is burning, I gotta throw water in my house before I could throw water in the neighbor's house. And this is how I see it all the time.
Naturally. Self-preservation is first law of nature.
I mean, I gotta tell you, I could say this without fear of contradiction. When the PNC took office in 2015, I was expecting a lot in terms of cultural development, especially with the contribution that the Yoruba Singers have made. And they looked the other way. They never, ever tried to help the Yoruba Singers. And we were always supportive to the People's National Congress. But for all them years they were out of office, either in the States and they bring in tickets, I would tell my wife, I pay them for the tickets. And when they came into office, I give them a price for a particular event. And a certain minister whose name I wouldn't call said, oh, they're too pricey. And I could give the figure was $1,500 US, I tell him, I asked for. And they say it's too pricey. But yet, they brought Bujabantan and all them for 30 or 40,000 US dollars.
There's big story we're talking there, which could go into deep rabbit holes because of how the music scene works. But I imagine that I've heard that sentiment, let me say it that way, I've heard that sentiment reiterated in several different ways in terms of the previous administration, which was not only a PNC government, but was dominated in very many ways by the PNC. A lot of people say that they feel like they turned their back on their core,
Yes.
which is a question we don't even have time to really delve into today because, there's racial politics, which is always a degraded level of politics at best. But then there's the whole issue of corruption.
Well, I want to make one point.
Yeah.
There was a certain minister, Indian minister, treated me much better in terms of support than any other minister in the PNC government. And he was a PNC. But he understood the value of what culture is.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of my brothers we were close never look in my direction.
Mm. Mm.
It is painful to say that, and I nearly get in trouble for that because a day when the Ghanaian president came,
Mm-hmm.
something at the state house, I walking out my yard. Lumumba live in front. You buy from Buxton.
And I'm my boy, you know. What the do you say?
Your village again, your village.
Yes, sir.
Right? He said, man, you antagonize me. I thought you that the state house performing for the Ghanaian president. I walk about 10 steps and I turn back up. What? Because he's right. Anybody would think so. I turned back. I said, let me tell you, I got to tell you the truth. I said, if I measure the last 3 years for the People's National Congress led in power, and the last 3 years of the PPP, when they lose office, the PPP gave me 10 more relevant jobs, state jobs, than my party in government. And I walk away left me.
Mm.
But a month later, they were preparing the list for this 2020 election.
Mm.
And they asked me to join them. I said, I will rather, my wife does vex me up to now. I said, I would rather starve than to join the PPP because I'm aware of the atrocities that they did between 2002 to 2006 for our people, young, innocent black people. I can't forget that. And they were never, they never give account. They were never held accountable
Right.
for all those crimes that they commit.
They did it with impunity.
Yes.
17 minutes after the hour, we're talking to Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe of the legendary Yoruba Singers. You're tuned into WRFG Atlanta. We have an announcement to play, and we'll be right forward with more of the Yoruba Singers, more about Ezzie. When we come forward, there's one more question I want to ask, and maybe we'll just do this real quick and then come back to that question. Regarding your perception of how culture really influences politics. Knowing that politics is just is people. It's people that politics is supposed to affect. Even politicians, are people. But how does culture? You are a cultural worker. You have a person that's been on the front line 53 years, affecting, speaking to the humanity of the people. I would like to know, how does culture affect politics? And to be very transparent, one of the reasons I'm asking this question, to get your opinion, is similar to what you were talking about with education. As you know, I think even your brother and probably some other family members went to my father's school. I come from a family of educators. We don't have any problem with education, true education, But somehow, a lot of people in the modern political arena, they treat culture like it's something extracurricular, kind of over there on the side to deal with on a holiday or a special occasion, but it has no real tangible relevance to what happening in the state house or in the parliament. I got a problem with that. I don't know if you see that the same way, but I'm gonna stick a pin right there, and we're gonna talk about that when we
come forward. All right.
It's WRFG Atlanta. You're tuned into your station for progressive information and handpicked quality music. Stay tuned, y'all. Stay tuned to yourself.
The Little Five Points Community Center is not only the home of WRFG Radio, but there are a number of visual and performing artists that share studios in this unique building. The center is happy to announce to one and all that there will be an open house and art sale. There will be music, caroling, open studios, workshops, and much more. Artist studios will be open with one-of-a-kind art gifts in time for holiday shopping. This family-friendly event takes place Saturday, December 7th, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The community center is located 1083 Austin Avenue, Northeast Atlanta, Georgia 30307. We look forward to welcoming the entire family. This is another public service announcement from your station for progressive information and handpicked quality music, WRFG 89.3.
WRFG.org, broadcasting worldwide on that format all the while. Stay tuned again.
Did you know that the Fulton County Department of Community Development and Metro Fair Housing Services are offering residents of College Park, East Point, Fairburn, Hapeville, Palmetto, Union City, and South Fulton landlord, tenant, and fair housing counseling? For what? Get help with repairs, dispute resolutions, referrals for evictions, and more.
And housing discrimination?
If you were denied a mortgage loan due to maternity leave or disability income, or denied a rental because you have children or an emotional support animal, or being harassed by your landlord with indecent advances in exchange for rent, for more information, Metro's hotline at 404-524-0000 today for help.
This has been another public service announcement brought to you by your listener-sponsored and supported community radio, 89.3 FM, WRFG.org. Your station for progressive information and hand-picked quality music.
89.3 on the FM dial, WRFG, Radio Free Georgia. And I always must, when I utter those words, I got to big up Radio Free Grenada, which was a cultural phenomenon that I was exposed to, and many of us were exposed to as part of the Grenada Revolution. As youth man, we're speaking with Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe of the Yoruba Singers, and we're grateful for his time with us this afternoon. Please unmute your mic again. And we've been just talking about our story. So much to talk about, and we're so grateful for you being generous with your time. Before we go any further, let's talk about the show that's coming up. Now, on this radio station, we can't mention price and everything, but please, let's talk about the show that's coming up, For the Love of a Common People. I got to say, I love the title. I love the title.
Yeah, this concert has been going on for the last 10 years. This is the 10th edition of For the Love of a Common People, to celebrate the longevity of the Yoruba Singers. This year, we're having like two big bands, Yoruba Singers Band and the Fame Band. The Fame Band came out of a band called the Mischievous Guys.
Mm-hmm.
You probably heard of them.
Yeah.
Right? Lionel Eber and Pato Gonzalez. Pato passed on, and it was led by a man named Morris Bowen. So his sons now, they control the band now. And they changed the name from Mischievous Guys to Fame Band. They're around about 8 years now, and they're doing very well. So I said we can join forces this year and hold this thing together, you know?
Yes. Where will it be taking place?
It will be taking place at the Promenade Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
That's Middle Street, between Carmichael and Waterloo, Middle Street.
Yes. That's For the Love of a Common People. And again, the date.
It's the 8th of December, Sunday the 8th of December. Gates open at 4 o'clock, and the show starts at 6 p.m. sharp. It can be a 4-hour concert from 6 to 10 in the night.
This upcoming Sunday. Yes, indeed. That's the Yoruba Singers. You said two big bands in a one land, alongside Fame Band, and I'm sure many supporting artists other than the Yoruba Singers.
Yeah, we have 15 Chinese artists on the program.
15?
Yeah, people like Sammy Bash and Charmin Blackman, and the reigning Don Solomon of Alabama.
Yes, my brethren.
Sean Bowler. Lots and lots of artists.
Yeah, man. I love it. That's a Guyana super show.
Yes.
And let there be a message to the world. You know, Guyana don't need to have any kind of imports. We love our people from all around. Of course, I work with artists from all over the place, but we can hold our own in the musical arena and provide a night of teach-attainment, you know, fullness for the people. We're speaking with Papa Ezzie Rockcliffe. Let's go back again to Mike Coney. You mentioned earlier, and I'm asking these questions not, of course, I'm just saying this for the people. I know you understand. Not to relive any kind of painful things, but at the same time to see that, you know, some people say the more things change, the more they stay the same, and things happen in cycles. There was a man whose name I was given, um, Patrick Reese. That name rings
Yes.
a bell?
Yes, it's my cousin.
He's your cousin?
Yes. Them guys, he and his brother, them, they got a night was dubbed as the Night of Terror. Sometime in the 60s. Like, I think either 62 or 63.
Yes.
I have a little cousin. He's a Douglas boy. His mother got him for an Indian man named Barlow, had a big shop in the village. And he go the day, he was about 4 years old. And he play with Cork under the counter. You know them hybrid shop, you know?
Yes.
And he play with Cork and thing. And some Indian men talk with Barlow, but 5 of them. So when they're done with Black Man tonight, in this village, only cook the 3 left. And he crawl out at that age and go and tell his great aunt and Jean, Eugenie Eversley, and tell you exactly what his father said. But the man telling the father, she threw a towel because it was 5:36 in the afternoon. She threw a towel over her head and go and ask the father, Barlow, I want me here by yourself. And when I get done with Black Man in this village, only cook the 3 left. Barlow said, cousin and Jean, what's stupidness am I saying? That nonsense. You see, but 12 o'clock the night, if them people were well trained, they would have killed out every black man in the village. It's the same Reese brothers.
Yes.
Same, about 3 of them had pistol and thing.
Yeah.
And they fight back.
Yeah.
And quell the team.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them Reese brothers, it would have been a terrible massacre. The Night of Terror.
Night of Terror. And you know, when you talk about that, I don't know if you, and for many of the audience members are familiar with instances like what they call Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and other places.
Yes, I saw it on the social media.
So the reason I bring that up, and I want you to help me with this, to see if I'm walking in the right direction as a student of history. You know, there's a saying, there's a proverb that said, people in a stone mango tree if it not bear. People in a stone mango tree if it not bear. Meaning, for those of y'all who don't understand the rhetoric or the language, when, you know, in the new age, they say you're haters. You usually don't have haters unless you're successful at something. So I wonder what were the successes of that community that would make other people come and try to attack them, you know, because one of the things like I said, you know, I talked to my father and I told him that I'd be speaking to you, and he suggested 2 or 3 things that I asked you about to bring back the memory. One of them was about settlements, like cooperative settlements that they had over in that area. One of them, I think the name Butanabu.
Yeah, Butanabu, yes.
Right. So
I had a brother who went up there to Butanabu.
Yes. So just like oh, go ahead. Sorry.
When they started that project,
yeah,
that's where it actually started. Them guys used to go in the creek to hunt guana and thing. And the first set of attack that came from the Indians was an afternoon. They coming back with the guana and so on in them paddle boat. And they were attacked. They said, black man guys supposed to go in the village, go in the creek. I mean, Butanabu started long after that. The project of itself.
Yes. And
Burnham took office and so on.
So I'm wondering if our children, because as we mentioned at the beginning, through my conversation, you're edifying me as a young man who was snatched away from my homeland early because of politics. and so didn't get to grow up experiencing the Yoruba singers like I would have experienced if I was living in the country. You're educating a whole generation of people who may not have known. You mentioned the other day, and we want to get to that in terms of when you were awarded the honorary doctorate degree, all the young people then went crazy. And I know they would, because this culture is in our DNA. So naturally they would love it, right? But
Yeah.
I wonder if when the story of our past is told, if it was not just what if the atrocities, not only the atrocities would be included, but also our victories, like the power we had. Like for me, growing up in Buxton, my hair does raise on my skin every time I think about the fact that my ancestors pooled resources together and purchased villages like Buxton, Victoria, Anns Grove, and so on and so forth. Coming out of slavery, coming out of nothing. So I wonder if the children nowadays would walk the earth with a different kind of power if they knew, well, it's not just we had this racial strife and people beat us down, but there was a reason why they attacked us in the first place.
That's
because
right.
we were powerful.
We were chased away from the land, farmlands. When we bought those lands, the white boys, they flood the land to chase me out. Go and look walk in town for we police and postman and this and that. Because they understand the power of the land.
Right.
They understand when you're producing things from the land. We went and dig for gold and diamond. All the black people were poke knockers at that time. Now we get even pushed down to that. And this is not talking about a racial hate, because my great-grandfather, on the other side, the Richmond side, he was an Indian man. So they had two, his name, they used to call it Kolibakos.
Yes.
They had Kolibakos, and they got from the Rockcliffe side, they had Black Bacchus. Me great-great-grandma, the name, they used to call him Mommy John. A white woman from Holland, met 12 children in the village.
Mm-hmm.
Some take Bacchus and some take John. Because he's the name Bacchus John. I'm trying to show you that human beings, if we are really sensible and we really understand what life is all about, we would live as one and no color, because we are the first people.
Naturally.
The black man is the first people. And they got the saying in my Coney when I smile, cut up mama. Cut up picnic, mama na eat them. But cut up mama, picnic eat them. And this is what happening.
Wow.
We are the mothers and fathers of all the other races. So we always got a soft spot for them.
There's a power. I never heard that one there before. I'm gonna have to make a song out of that one there. Yeah. Maybe the Yoruba Singers and Raskofi could collaborate.
Yeah, collaboration.
Cut up picnic. So let me translate that. When you cut up some children, the mother will not eat them. But if you cut up the mother, the children will eat them.
That's right.
Wow.
Because the children eating me up all the time. Our children.
This is world history here. You're talking here? No.
Yes.
This is world history. This is something that we can look at every continent and every period of history and see this happening. Wow. Cut up picnic, mama na eat them. You cut up mama, picnic eat them. Wow. We're speaking with the great Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe, foundation member of the Yoruba Singers. They started as the Kitty Askrians.
The Kitty Askria, ASCRIA, Askria, African Society for Cultural Relations with Independent Africa. A significant thing happened also when we changed over to Yoruba Singers. We were doing a concert on behalf of Askria. And on the day this when we changed to Yoruba Singers on the 25th of May, 1971.
Yes.
Right? African Liberation Day at the time.
Yes.
How significant that got to be spiritual.
Naturally.
1971, the 25th of May. African Liberation Day at the time.
I was told that one of the first initiatives to really celebrate African liberation, they come from out of Guyana.
Yes.
I mean, worldwide. Yeah, one of the first initiatives come from out of Guyana. We have a serious legacy that we're holding on to, and we're very grateful for the part that I won't even say that you have played. Definitely the part that you and your comrades and the Yoruba Singers have played so far, but that you continue to play. I want to bring up another name, Jacob James.
That's
Jacob.
Cousin.
You say your cousin?
Yeah, the whole village is family, you know.
That's
Yola
true.
Village, Yola Branch Road.
So this was a man that was told to me to be a wealthy man.
Wealthy. He was the richest black man in Myconi. Village and Ferry. With the outside they used to call Ferry.
Yes.
Right? Jacob James, very wealthy.
And I hear that this man, even though he have all this riches and was able to help a lot of people, he would walk from Myconi to town with barefoot.
Barefoot, yes.
He used to trot barefoot all the while.
We used to go pick, as a little boy, I could remember picking mango in the estate, pulling up big, them big round basket.
Yes.
Yeah, you pick mango and they used to pay you know what a day or what. They used to pay for pick the mango. And my big brother Carl would carry me. So when he go up in the tree, I catch him and go put it in the tree.
I don't know if Myconi and mango like Buxton, but that's a different story because the Buxton spice is the sweetest.
Well, it's Buxton spice in Myconi too.
Okay.
Same species of mango.
Same species spread out all over the country.
Yeah, Buxton spice.
So there was a time even in my childhood when mango season come, people would just grease up the pot and turn down the pot, and that's all they eating is mango.
Mango.
This is the same thing that you experience?
Yeah. The reaction downstairs, it doesn't affect you.
No, it's all right. We know they're getting ready for the big show. We're talking with Dr Ezzie Rockcliffe. We're not going to keep you too much longer, but you have me on the edge of my feet because story, as I said earlier, story time is what's going to bring us home, storytelling. Because there's so much. We don't have to embellish anything. We don't have to make up anything about our story. And that includes the challenges too, We ain't talking about just the glory days, but the challenges.
When we start, our first professional job, we get 10 Guyana dollars. Was 13 of either time on stage. 10 Guyana dollars. So when the guys, what we can do, I said, well, what we got to do is save, because everybody couldn't get $1.
Right.
So what we got to do is save this money to start buy equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So we start 10. And when we asked the manager was Wigan Gong, we asked for 15.
Yeah.
He said, y'all getting big too fast. And we went to a program called Teensville at Radio Demerara.
Yes.
And the manager from Pegasus, a man named Jobling, he was the food and beverage manager, heard the group. And he called through and asked if we could send a representative to negotiate to get some plane there. So right away, I sent out Hudari. He was the assistant manager at the time.
Yes.
And because Bucky was the manager. Anyhow, we sent out Hudari, and Hudari negotiate. They said they can pay me $30 a night, Wednesday night and Friday night. Mm-hmm. After 1 month, they raised me to $40 a night. So we get 40 and 40, 80. And the Saturday night, a banding come in the Savannah Suite. And they asked me if we could play. They asked me the Friday we could play the Saturday night. I said yes. And we get $120. So that week we worked for $200 Guyana dollars. When I go and tell my mother said, don't ever leave this work.
You say you find your purpose, son.
Yeah, she said, don't ever leave this work. And thank God my mother was live long enough. When we played at Madison Square Garden, we do 2 shows one night. We get $6,000 US.
Yes.
With all expenses paid. That's in 1983.
I was going to ask you what year was that the Madison Square Garden show?
1983.
Who all was on that bill?
They had Sparrow, they had Kitchener, they had two artists from they had Mighty Gabby, they had people from Jamaica. It was a big West Indian concert.
Yeah. And when you mention those names, one thing that come to mind is the one of the legacies of Calypso is that in many ways they are like the political analysts. You know, people don't have to listen to newspaper to hear what's going on. The Calypsonians.
That's right.
So in Guyana, a lot of that. In Guyana, it seemed to be a little more neutral in terms, just from my perspective. Would you say that's accurate? In terms of the general.
Only last night after rehearsal, we were having a discussion. If you carry a real political song to the Calypso contest now, you'll be disqualified.
But has it always been that way?
No.
Give me some example of some real fire starter in terms of cultural expression coming from musicians that have really touched the Guyanese society.
I had a man named Pemia. He sing a song about Burnham and what's going on in terms of the politics. And Burnham applaud and just laugh. And you were sitting right there. But the girl tell Granger the other day, when Granger was in power, the girl that won the contest said is one of the founder members of the Yoruba Singers wrote the song. I guess she was sing. You rehearse it right now downstairs. But yes, right? You got to search a little more, right? Search within. That was the song based upon.
Yeah.
You just don't want to hear the song. And the tradition is when the Calypso contest finishes, the winner is going to sing for the leader at Linden. Because there's got some function there after the Calypso contest. And the leader just be there and you just sing the song. You say, you want to hear?
Yeah.
The song name, put your ears on the ground. You can hear a rumbling. You can hear the cry of the people if you put your ears on the ground. You understand you want to hear that?
God have mercy. I'm sorry for the politicians them who are still dealing with the energy of suppression. And we know there's a long history of that. That's the reason why, I'm doing my best to stay neutral in the conversation as a journalist. But, the world knows that's why my father separated from Mr. Burnham.
Yeah.
And even before that, and it seemed like it getting worse and worse. I want to share something now, which was a very proud moment for so many people. There's so many people I know whose shoulders you stand on, and who stand on your shoulders, and who you speak for. We're seeing a lot of the commentary in the chat and everything. Much love to all of you who are chiming in. Continue to like and share this video. This video is going to live on Camps TV as well as Ross Kofi's page and on our YouTube channel. But when you were awarded that honorary degree, again, as we said earlier, I got to keep saying there's no disrespect to academia in that sense. However, there's been a healthy disdain for the academic world that has emerged amongst the grassroots because of how most academics, the average academic, behave themselves. You get a little bit of education and you turn up your nose and all this kind of stuff. So when we see Ezzie Rockcliffe on stage here, this is like, well, this is our person. This is somebody who come through the ranks and come through the school that, as they say, the school of hard knocks, and is representing for us. And it shows that the voice of the people is still being respected. So I want to play this, just a little bit of this, and ask you to kind of give some thoughts about that moment, what this moment meant to you.
For our next honoree, Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe, and please help me welcome our senior lecturer in the Faculty of Education Humanities, Mr. Al Crichton.
Chancellor, I was advised to warn you that you ought to be very wary, if not verily frightened, by the man who now comes before you to be conferred with an honorary degree. I am advised that his very presence among us puts us all in danger of being summarily devoured, of being summarily devoured by a Masakura man, or of being possessed by the spirits invoked by African drums. That this talented graduand has the power to call up spirits and to unleash among us the supernatural creatures of Guyanese folklore. Indeed, Chancellor, there is a very exciting element in folklore traditions known as the fear factor. Fear of the gods, of the ancestral deities, is a part of the practice, a function of the therapy. Even during entertainment, members of the audience flee in terror from the wild prancing of the mad cow in the masquerade band. And the stories told in the depths of the darkest nights were those of supernatural beings waiting outside by the cokers or the black water creeks, waiting to drag you overboard or to follow you home. But the gentleman who now comes before you has asked me to give you the reassurance that the only spirits that accompany him here this day are those generated by the intoxicating energy of Guyanese music. That the haunting echoes of the Masakura man will only be here in the unforgettable lyrics of the Yoruba Singers. That is because, Chancellor, I hereby present Dr Ezzie Rockcliffe, songwriter, founder, lead singer, and band leader of the immortal and legendary Yoruba Singers. A gentleman of disarming humility who can summon potent forces and the very zenith of entertainment by unleashing the compelling authority of his powerful, melodious voice. He has been written down in the Guyanese consciousness as the founder and leader of a band whose captivating rhythms have entertained Guyana and the Caribbean for more than 50 years. The mystic harmony of their traditional drums do, in fact, Chancellor, have the power to move you and even our very exquisite Vice Chancellor to catch Antabanta and dance possessed on this very stage. They say that in a cottage in Kitty in 1971, a band called the Kitty Young Ascrians was formed, led by Ezzie Rockcliffe, with a mouth organ, a box guitar, and a few African drums. This developed into a vibrant string band. The Kitty Young Ascrians grew up, was later named the Yoruba Singers, and went on to make history and create a number of firsts. Over the ensuing decades, this band was shaken by challenges, by hard times, stiff competition, changing trends and entertainment preferences, when several of Guyana's leading string bands went out of business. But the Yoruba Singers refused to give in and has never broken up. etching their place in the pages of history by becoming by far the longest continuing ensemble of its kind in the country.
I'm going to pause it there just for the sake of time because we have about 9 minutes left in the broadcast. How did you feel? What were some of your thoughts as this was happening?
I feel elated because I know what it means to the public. Because people would meet me on the road and say, "Bye, you work so hard, they never even give they never try to even honor you or anything like that." I said, "Man, they can come in the right time." And now that when it came, I was very, very pleased and I was grateful in my own way. I mean, it don't got no money inside and all of that, but I think that the fact that people could recognize that you made your contribution was most important to me.
Yes. I just think of the fact that even for myself, this clothes that I'm wearing now is clothes that come from the Yoruba people of Nigeria.
Yeah.
You know, we did a DNA test. My brother did a DNA test on behalf of our family, and it was said that my mother, it was 100% match with the Yoruba people of Nigeria.
Okay.
And of course, knowing some of the cultural retentions that we experience coming up, that's not any big surprise to me. But the beautiful thing about how this is not a culture that is just available for the highly educated or people who have the privilege of being, coming from a family like myself who are really deep into the culture and everything. But you have brought this culture to everyday people. You and your group have brought this culture to the everyday people. Even just, if it's nothing else, just name the fact that the word Yoruba Singers is resonating on the lips of thousands of Guyanese over the years and people from all other parts of the world. That's a powerful contribution. That's a powerful contribution.
Like a day we were opening a show somewhere, and the whole group went and sang Baba Numzani yo yo Mulele Singer, and some people started to cry. Some people started to shed tears. That was 1972 at Queen's College. We come 3 guys singing the song. Baba Numzani yo yo, and people, by the time we hit the stage, people crying, man.
Yeah, man. Bringing them home.
And they don't know what they never heard before, but they're crying.
Bringing them home. You know, Papa Ezzie, we're running out of time, so to speak. So I want to give you the last word in several ways.
I thank you for exposing our culture for it and introducing it to a new generation. And anytime you find it, I would be available to continue to gab with people and expose the culture that we have so cherished over the years.
It's so much more to talk about. I'm a farmer, and I get that energy. I get the fire in my bones to farm. It's definitely ancestral, and I could point to my mother of blessed memory, and a man named Mr. John from Buxton who really created. I'm sure you've been to our house before I know you, where you would food everywhere, and this is not something. This is not something that is just for us. This is how we live as a people. There was a time, regardless if he's a doctor, a lawyer, or Indian chief, you get food growing because this is how we feed ourselves. So I want to ask you a question as we close. Not asking you to look into your crystal ball, but asking you to use your vision based on your knowledge of the past, based on your experience, to help us to see where you feel our society is going, specifically as it relates to the esteem of indigenous culture. Let's just say indigenous culture for now. We've been talking about African culture a lot, but do you see that with the passage of time, that there is an opening, that there is a thirst, if you will, for indigenous culture? Because you can only go so far off the cliff, and then you just drop off the cliff. You're you're very articulate about some of what you've seen as where that trajectory has gone and how it got there.
Well, I would answer like this. I would think I have a member of the band named Kieran Richards who plays African drums to all these spiritual functions, which still is very vibrant. This spiritual work and so on all across the country. But if we don't be careful, it will be lost because we don't have the resource to continue to nurture the kind of culture like what UC did from Askria. There was an organization, couple of black organizations, you getting were supposed to be getting some money from government to facilitate these things, but we only wait until August month to do things like that, and it's supposed to be a yearly thing.
Our election
all
time.
around the year, you know.
Yes.
And I'm scared about that. I'm scared of the culture dying, you know. Apology is supposed to be one of the organizations, and then the organization that your father and I helped to form as AGNA is another one. But somewhere along the line, I don't know what is happening behind the scenes of these organizations, you know, and how influential they are to influence young people to do things. Because I wouldn't condemn or criticize, because I know it's an uphill task to continue to do things like that.
Yes, yes.
Especially when you're not getting the full cooperation from central government.
Well, one of the things that it became very evident, I want to big up my bigger brother, Dr. David Hines, for really articulated it clearly, is that sometimes when you're pushed against the wall, and this is in reference even to the 1st of August, we're forced to do for ourselves.
Yes.
The African people and the grassroots people in general in this country, in America, are finding the same thing right now. That it's either despair or do for self, as we have done before.
Right.
And by doing for self, you will find you stand up on a strong foot. So I myself am publicly really stating that I'm really looking forward to putting a couple coals in the fire, putting a couple logs in the fire as it relates to the continued nurturing and reinvigoration of our culture. Even with the Yoruba Singers, you know, it's been a pleasure to be able to share the stage with you all. It's been an honor, really, more than a pleasure for the last couple of years. And we're looking forward to more of that because the people want it. It's something that is needed throughout the world. So it's just to make it happen. And then the politicians, they will have to fall into line. Because the politicians, them follow the people.
Last but not least, I came from 2 government agencies today because I wrote for some assistants to help me with the show. You know, and they're giving me all kind of excuses. I got to go back tomorrow and all of that. I went to the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Tourism, which are relevant to what we do, right? And there's no positive. I thought they would have been glad to know that Ezzie Rockcliffe is helping to nurture this thing for the benefit of our country, because we talk about one Guyana. But it is not so.
It's just talk.
It's just talk.
Well, we give thanks. Actions speak louder than words. Papa Ezzie, Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I really look forward for some more like this, you know?
Yeah, man, definitely. Myself included. And if I hear the band doing the thing downstairs, I'll let you go and join them. Right. And keep up the great works. We thank you for standing firm for the culture and for your contribution. And we pray that there will be many more years of the Yoruba Singers.
Thank you. Well, we got to talk in detail about you thing coming up, right?
We're going to do that soon.
Yes. Okay, then. All right.
Much love to everyone.
Take care, bro.
Yes, sir. That's Dr. Ezzie Rockcliffe. Thank y'all for joining us. We're off the air at WRFG Radio, and we're still here live on Facebook and YouTube. I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Please continue to share the love. Share the love. Love is an action verb. Our special guest today articulated it in his own way. I'm many years younger than him, many years his junior, and I can say the same thing, that this is my experience. This is what I know about village life in the same Guyana. Just like I know about this in small town and in the village, the African village of Atlanta, San Diego, Augusta, Georgia, where I went to school. So what I'm saying is this thing is not a thing of the past. This reality of village life is not a thing of the past. So hold on to your culture and don't let go. Take care of yourself and take care of one another. We're down the road.